guys? Kev here, and I want to do my full review on the Kubey knives 2104D. This is a CM knife design, or Colin Maisonpierre, my partner on Devo knives, but this is his design with Kubey. This is the third of the designs he's done with them. The first was the Royal. The second was the Duroc. And this one is the third. This is also called the Hyde. So I've had this for a couple weeks now, a few weeks now, I think. And I've carried it a bit. I have been carrying it back left pocket as a righty knife just because I've been mainly carrying the Devo Stout in my front left pocket. So I've just been carrying most knives I've been reviewing right-handed, even if I could, carry it lefty, if that makes sense. So pretty much what I thought in the unboxing is kind of what happened here. I have a few sort of gripes with it, but otherwise it's an absolutely fantastic knife, and for the money, I think it's excellent. Now, they did have a price tag of $70 on this knife with 14C, 28N. So that's your trade-off there. The Royal actually had sort of contoured scales. It just felt a little bit more, they're nested liners where these are proud. Felt like you got a little more on this, but this was in D2, and that's your trade-off right there. And it's bead blasted D2, which is, terrible. I will say this is still my favorite of his designs with Kubey. There's just something about the Royal I absolutely fell in love with. I mean, this is the knife that made me really want to work with Colin, so it's a fantastic knife. But I think the 14C is why your price point is up to 70, as opposed to that one with the contoured scales and everything for 60 with D2. So I think if they had done this in D2, it probably would have been like $50, you know what I mean? But we were all asking for it, so we got what we asked for. And I think $70 is still a bargain these days, especially for a good budget knife, and this thing is that. So let's talk about my normal stuff. So aesthetics, I really like this design. He just has a unique blade shape most of the time, and this is that. It's sort of a sheep spear, you know what I mean? I like to call it the Maisonpierre. So, but yeah, it's kind of got a sheep's foot thing going on, yet it's sort of a spear point. So it's still a low enough tip for me, but it almost doesn't look like a sheep's foot. It's very interesting. And then you have a pretty neutral handle scale with a little bit of stuff going on back here. Lanyard pen. You got this blue G10. I'm not the biggest fan of this because it's kind of like a blue-gray, and I just don't like blue-gray. I like blue. You know what I mean? This feels less blue, but it's still a good color. I don't regret it. Black would have been fine, too. The hole shape is sort of a pill shape, kind of classic if you follow the ERGOnomics F5.5. It kind of has that to it, that sort of pill-shaped hole. You also have knives like the Demko 80-20.5 that have a sort of pill-shaped hole. Let me see if I have anything else. The EDC Nimble. These are a little more elongated. I think that's going to be it for those kind of pill-shaped holes. Don't think I have anything else in that category. Yeah, as far as I can tell, that's it. So, obviously, that's plenty anyway. But all fantastic knives. And while we're here, let's just do a size comparison. We can use the F5 there for that. And there you go. So the F5.5 is just slightly smaller, but honestly, it's almost like the handle's the same length, maybe, but you get a little more blade. I mean, it's very close, guys. I mean, essentially, you're getting the same size knife here. Both liner locks. So, good stuff. I love the KB on the pivot. Just like their class there on that. A little bit of stuff going on the handles here. These lines gives it a little bit of life. I like that. Here's your hardware. You're looking at T8 hardware, and then sadly you do have a T6 on the clip screws, But hey, unless you're left-handed, you don't even care probably. And you have T8 on the pivot. And then when closed, you can see it's got a little bit of a cool factor there with the hole not, exposed all the way. That can be a little bit of a negative in other departments, but I think it looks cool. Centering for me is dead nuts. Just a cool looking knife, honestly. I love the buzz cut up here. You got the jimping going on there, so really, really cool. So ergos. You get a full four-finger grip. I should say, back here. So full four fingers. My finger lands up here. Feels really comfortable. Now, I want to choke up on this knife, and that's where I get a little bit of an issue ergonomically, because I wish this wasn't there. I wish this was an extended choil, and then I would have this whole area to choke up on. Now, I can do it, and it is comfortable. I just probably wouldn't want to take down like 9,000 pounds of cardboard with it, right? Which I don't do anyway. So it's fine, but I do want to note that if you're going to be using it as like a work knife or cardboard cutting knife, this might be a little bit of an issue, but then you can just back up here anyway, which is extremely comfortable. It has a little bit of thickness to it because it has those proud liners, you know what I mean? So for example, here is the Devo Knives Stout, and we can compare them, and they are the same thickness, just about. It might be a little bit thicker on the hide, but it's relatively close, and this is at 0.512. It's got a little bit, it's a little over the 1/2 inch, which I think makes it very comfortable in hand. And this is the same way, right? It makes it really comfortable in hand. It fills your hand out really nice. And when you have a knife like this or the Stout where it's not a super tall handle, it feels good to have a little bit of extra on this side, if you know what I mean. Not too much, but a little bit. Feels good. I like the ergonomics. Cutting. So I did do some cutting with this. I did not go crazy. Shipping labels were a breeze because of this Colin Maisonpierre, or the Maisonpierre blade shape. You can get down and zip, zip, zip. It's not as good as, say, a Devo Stout where you got that tip down, ready to go. But that's what I designed this for, you know what I mean? Or we designed it for. This still has that, and you can pinch up, get in there and do that. But it has some more of that belly, a little bit more of that spear point look. So I think it's an absolutely fantastic overall blade shape for use. You have a lot of things kind of built into this blade shape. You get the belly you need for certain things. You get the kind of straight edge, not straight edge, but straight enough you need for a lot of things. You get that nice acute tip that's not too dainty, though, for the precision cutting and things like that. I just think it's a pleasure to cut with. Now, I cut a little bit of cardboard, and I believe I cut up an apple and a few like strawberries for my kid. Just kind of, I like to test out blades when I do that, and it worked absolutely fantastically for that. So that's great. So cutting, again, not the expert here. I didn't go to town on it or anything, but you guys know that by now. The carry, so the clip, they did fix this from the Royal. They made the clearance a little bit higher, which is fantastic. It goes in pocket so much better. You do have that little catch there because it's not recessed into the scale, but it doesn't matter because they gave you enough clearance. So it goes zip right into pocket, zip right out of pocket. Had no issue. It has a little bit of weight to it compared to other knives, I'd say. Like, even compared to the Royal, it's a little bit heavier. Just the nature of having those full liners, I think, even though they're about the same size and all that good stuff. But it's not, like, much heavier, and I don't think it's a problem for anyone, you know what I mean? It's just something to note. So carry is good. It's thin this way. This is another benefit of hiding that hole a little bit. You don't have a very tall knife. You don't have a very thick knife. Now, it's not like the thinnest knife, but it's certainly average, you know what I mean? So I think all around it's just a good dimensioned knife for carry. You don't have any like sharp edges on the end here. He kind of knocked all of this down, rounded it, and then they chamfered it really well. So when you're reaching past the knife, you're not going to like hit anything. Now for me, it's back left pocket, so I'm reaching in to grab like a Hank or something like that, and I'm kind of hitting this side, and there's nothing there to kind of get you, right? There's no blade, there's just nothing there to hurt you. There's no sharp corners, you know, it just feels really good. Does have a lanyard spot for any of you guys. Sounds. So to me, it sounds like what you would expect a sort of budget liner lock to sound like. It's not going to sound fantastic. It's just not going to have that because, you know, you got the steel liners in there with G10 on them, and they're milled a little bit, so you get a little bit, but it's more of like clicks and clacks as opposed to, you know, a ting or a thwack or something like that I would like. But it's not bad. It bangs out a little bit, you know, and then it comes down. So, I mean, it's like a 5 out of 10. It's not like bad. It's just not, you know, it doesn't have any excellent features in terms of sound, if that makes sense. All right, so the action, guys. This is where this knife kind of shines because it has so many options, and it does have a little bit of a drawback with the amount of hole you get there. So as a lefty, you obviously have a really good reverse flick because you get a little more access to the hole because it's designed for a righty to get in there and thumb flick, right? So for me, I get in there, boom. I don't really have any problems with the reverse flick left-handed. Have I missed it before? Yeah. I've kind of slipped over it a couple times on accident, but more than likely, I get it every time. You can do the flick. You can also do the sort of pressure game until it flies out. Lefty thumb flick, much harder to get. You got to give it a little bit of whoosh, whoosh when you get it to go. Kind of like that, you know what I mean? But I don't go around thumb flicking left-handed anyway. I don't really thumb flick right-handed either, but it's a little bit easier on that. You can get in there and slow roll it out. But right-handed, you do have access to the hole. Same access you have with the thumb left-handed, except you're not using your thumb. You're using a smaller finger, so you can get in there and you can flick it out, right? You can do the same pressure, shoot it out. So that's the hole, right? You have options of slow roll, reverse flick, and thumb flick, right? Those are your options. Now you have this tab with a buzz cut. And I love it because the reach around is real on this one, guys, right? You can quote this if you want. I love the reach around. So you can just grab the knife like this because it's a liner lock, no frame lock issues, and just put your finger at the end here and whata! It whips out of there. It's really, really fun to do. Very much enjoy the reach around on this knife. You can do it right-handed, left-handed. It just feels natural, guys. You can just kind of reach up, boom, right? It's a small enough knife, being around 3 inches, a little bit over 3 maybe, that you can just easily reach it. It's not a big-ass knife. Like, for example, my kind of new favorite knife is the Brown Knives FSD, and it's fantastic. Reverse flick it, right? But the thing is, it's such a big-ass knife, right, that when you go to do like a front flip or something, you have to climb all the way up here to get up to front flip it, right? You want to use the flipper, you got to kind of climb up, make sure you get enough leverage and flick it. You can't just, you know, you can't just do it right away sometimes. Where on this, the size of the knife for me works where I can just grab it and flick it no matter what, right? Now, it's going to vary person to person. If you have huge hands, that one's probably going to be fine. So you have the reach around. Then you also have the top flipper move. Boom. And the D10 is perfect for literally every deployment method. It's very kind of nimble-esque in that sense. But yeah, you can do the top flipper. Just grab the buzz cut and whoosh. And then, if you want, you can also try to front flip it. Now, I don't understand why Kubey didn't jimp this all the way up and around. I think Colin designed it that way, but they changed it maybe for appearances or when it's open maybe to kind of catch that edge right there so you don't get jimped. You kind of get roll into the jimping. I don't know. That's my only reasoning. They wanted to make that a rounded edge there so you didn't have a sharp edge right here. I don't know. But you can front flip it if you get in there and see, you can front flip it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but once you kind of get it down, you can do it. I'm not a really great front flipper, but like I'm just doing the reach around anyway. And then the closing action, you can see here's your lockup. I think that's excellent lockup. You're at like what, 20%. Disengage, it falls to your nail. Very smooth, and maybe one good shake would get it down. I haven't taken this apart. I haven't done anything to it. I'd venture to guess you could probably get it even smoother. But you can see there, it's just really, really good. I like to close it left-handed like this. Shout out to Brandon Ziegler. You just push the lock bar over with your index finger and let the knife fall. And you kind of get hit by the choil area and then just let it drop. So there you go, guys. That is the Hyde, the Kubey KU2104 from my buddy Colin. One other thing I wanted to note was you can see, because it has this top flipper, right, the farther back it goes, the more they have to cut out of the lock bar. And you'll see there's actually a cutout in the lock bar. See if we can get that on camera for you. There's a cutout there. You see that in the lock bar? So when this swings around, it has to drop into that. So part of the lock bar is actually trimmed out to fit the buzz cut. And I think they went back as far as they could before they'd end up, you know, causing structural issues. I don't think it's going to be any kind of issue. You know, there's no rock, there's no play or anything like that. But I just want to note that it's kind of cool. It's reminiscent of the Craig Brown knife, the Cortex, the other Craig Brown knife, sorry. The other one was the FSD. This is the Cortex, and the way this works is you see that tab. It's your top flipper tab, kind of a same thing there, right? When you whip that around, what it does is he actually cut out, this is a frame lock, so it's different. He actually cut a little part into the frame, and it kind of seats into it. Watch, it'll drop in. Instead of just sitting there, it drops into the frame. See that? It's really, really cool. So it's kind of, you know, a different way of doing that, obviously, because it's a liner lock. So I just think that's really cool engineering there in terms of, you know, knife making stuff. So, yeah, I really like this one. I think it's going to be a popular model for Kubey. You know, I do wish the hole had a little more access. If it was just sitting out a little bit further, it'd probably be better, but it still works well, right? And it does make the carry a little nicer. So, I'm guessing the reason they did that had something to do with the top flipper. And if they had left it taller, maybe they would have had to cut more out. I don't know. So yeah, Colin, you killed it again, dude. Happy for you, man. So glad to be working with you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and the hits keep coming for you, man. So, love you guys. Hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments, and I will catch you later.